Hey guys, my name is Lily and I'm an addict. I have been in recovery for almost 10 years. I have been clean of substances for almost 10 years. It is a struggle every day. It gets a little easier as time goes by, but it's not easy. And you have to work at it. It started when I was about 12. I took my first actual puff off of I have to say certain words so I don't get flagged. But a friend of mine had some Mary Jane, and I don't want to say peer pressure because I was curious. So I took a puff off of it. I liked it, and little did I know that the addiction started there and it grew. And I had no idea it would control my life like it did for so long. And a lot of people don't believe that you can just be grabbed by a drug or by a substance at such a young age or at any age. And let me tell you, I only done that once every so many months, but it actually built my addiction from the get-go. I got to the point to where when I was 12, it started off as once every couple of months, and it became I have to have it every week. Then it became I have to at least hit it every day to relax. Then it became now I'm so tired, I don't have no energy. Now I need something to kind of pick me up. And that's where getting the faster stuff came in. At 13 years old, I got a hold of what they used to call mini thins. It was like an old school ephedrine, kind of like how stackers were, yellow jackets, like little pill that was like speed. But they were legal. They sold them in convenience stores, but they weren't legal for children to take. So when my friends' parents would have them at their houses, I'd get them. We all would get them. Let me tell you, if you have kids or teens in your home, keep all medicines locked up in a safe or somewhere safe where you know they can't get to them. When I was 14, I had my first pain pill. This was at my friend's house. My friend, his mom, got them every month from the doctor's office and got a lot of them. So he would get a couple. I never thought I would mess with nothing like that because I was so scared of everything. And then one day I was kind of down and out, had a bad breakup, couldn't get a hold of no grass. And he was like, hey, this will make you feel way better. And I tried it. And I felt like I was on top of the world for a few hours. It was like almost all day I felt great. Well, I didn't mess with it no more for a while. So I thought, hey, I don't even crave it. Therefore, I'm not addicted. I don't have no cravings. Can't be addicted to it. About 2 or 3 days later, now let me go back for a minute. The next day I was like, do you have another one? The next day, do you have another one? But in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm only taking a half. So if I'm not needing no more than that, then I can't be addicted to it. Even though I'm wanting to get them from him, but I'm not having to take so much, so I can't be addicted. I didn't see or understand that I was becoming addicted within those days and weeks and months. So just to prove a point to myself, I go a week without them. That week went by with a breeze. I didn't even think about them. I was like 13 or 14. That, in my head, was like, oh, see, you don't need these. They're talking about you would be sick, you'd be hurting, you'd be sweating, you'd have diarrhea. You don't have none of those symptoms. You're not addicted. So then I had put it in my head, can't be addicted. I go a while without messing with anything. I don't smoke nothing. I never smoked cigarettes during that time. So I didn't, none of it. But I had got into drinking. And it was like I was changing one addiction to another, one substance for another. You know what I'm saying? I would leave that alone to mess with this. Leave that alone to mess with this. But it was never nothing like cocaine, crack, none of that stuff. It was just always grass, alcohol, a mini thin, and then I got like a Lorcet. And then I'd leave it alone for a while. And I would say, oh, well, I'm not addicted. Well, then when I got about 14, I got back into the grass. This became an everyday thing. all of a sudden, for some reason, I had to have it every single day. And when I didn't have it, I would be ill as a snake. And I'm talking, I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to go to work. I didn't want to do anything but hit that. And then once I hit that, then I'd want to do whatever I was going to do. When I was about 16 or 17, I decided to leave everything alone. And I did. I was so proud of myself. I was like, you know what? I'm going to finish school. I'm going to leave this mess alone, never touch it again. And I left it alone all the way up till I was about 19. When I was 19, almost 20, I found out that my ex was cheating. We split apart and got back together, went back and forth or whatever. Then I cheated. We did this back and forth game for a while. And we started drinking together. And he was a little bit older than me. Once I was about 21, I was with someone that I loved so much. And I felt like they loved me too. But come to find out they didn't. And that person left me for someone else. You want to talk about a hit to the self-esteem? A hit to the heart? A hit physically, mentally, and emotionally that just ripped me apart? When I found out that he was cheating with someone that we never even met, like he literally met her at a store or somewhere. And I said, you know what? If you want to be with her, go be with her. I'm not trying to hold nobody apart. If you don't love me like that, you don't love me like that. So I put my big girl pants on and, I put that fake smile and fake face on. And I said, you know what? Y'all go be together. I'll be happy for you. I was hurt, upset, mentally, physically just wore out and tired of dealing with it, tired of worrying about it. But it hurt so bad to have been with someone for so long. We were together for years. And all I knew was him. I grew up only knowing this person. And back then, people didn't go to jail for being with someone younger. He was way older than me. And nothing happened. And I never thought that was wrong until later in life when I realized that was wrong. But anyways, back to that story. All I knew was him. He kind of basically trained me for so many years. And then when he's gone, I'm destroyed, just heartbroken, and I turn to alcohol. I never thought in a million years that this day was going to be the start of something so destructive and despicable and horrible. But that's the day that my worst addictions began. That night, I decided to go out, drink. I went to the bars, had a good time, went to the clubs. About 2 o'clock, I started getting tired. So a friend of mine was like, hey, you want to try this? This will pick you up a little bit. And I tooted. I don't want to say it online, but we tooted. With the disorders that I dealt with and had, along with the OCD and the Tourette's and the ADHD, the ED, all the problems that I had from my childhood to my teens, that drug made 100 times worse. I really lost weight. I looked so bad. I was sickly all the time. I was in bad shape. My teeth were weak. They looked awful. I had soft bones. My eyes were always constantly bloodshot, bulging. I couldn't think straight. I couldn't sleep. I had the worst sleep pattern to begin with, but then it really got bad. But then the obsession with that substance began, and I craved it. I thought about it morning, noon, and night. That's all I could think about was getting that stuff. And I didn't understand what it was doing to me physically. All I could feel was the numbing the pain, numbing the how, he left, numbing how everything hurt so bad, numbing the ABUSE I endured as a child. I was just trying to numb everything, but I did not see the damage it was doing to me. It gave me kidney damage, stomach ulcers, bits of my esophagus. I actually had raw spots, holes. I had spots in my lungs, my nasal passages right there. They got infected at least 6 different times, and they would swell up real big, and I couldn't breathe out of my nose at all, and I actually had to have a procedure done to fix my nasal passages. which would cause my teeth to hurt and my ears to hurt because all of that is connected. I stayed broke out constantly. I mean, I would occasionally get a pimple growing up or like, adult acne, but when I was doing that, I stayed broke out, huge bumps, and it was just horrible. And everybody was like, girl, you look bad. You look bad. You need to quit whatever you're doing. And I would say, oh, well, it's just COKE. Not a biggie. But it was. And it was tearing my life apart. So I go one day and I decide, you know what? This is really hurting my mama bad. And she pulled me to the side and said, girl, you got to get it together. And you got to get help. So I went to a clinic. And I decided today's the day that I'm going to get clean and I'm going to get help. I got worse. I relapsed the same week because in that clinic, they would write you something called Klonopin to calm you down and like a depression medicine and give you like a 30 minutes of therapy, and that was it. So they basically would write you medicine and get you out the door and take your money. And being that I didn't have insurance, I'm paying cash, So I was like, why would I want to buy this stuff when I could just go buy what I want? And that's what I ended up doing 2 more times afterwards. Well, then someone very close to me overdosed. And then the second time it happened to them, they were found dead in the front yard of their dealer's house. He was one of the best people I ever knew. And I know so many people judge addicts. And I know like law enforcement will judge addicts. But let me tell you something. There's addicts everywhere. There's addicts in politics. There's addicts in the law enforcement. There are addicts in hospitals as doctors and nurses, lawyers. Addicts are everywhere. And sometimes you would be shocked to know who I seen out buying and selling. It'd blow your mind. And I'm sure anybody else who's been through this will tell you the same thing. Some of your own senators, governors, it's bad. But I decided after that stuff happened with him, I'm going to get help. I want to be saved. I want to live. So I went into a program called the Methadone program. I had never had anything like that before, and at this time, I had my first appointment, and I was so sleepy all day, just so groggy and sleepy. I was like, why would I want to feel this way? Yuck. Well, the very next day I got into a car accident, and I broke both my legs. My ankles got crushed. My wrist was fractured. I fractured right above my eye, which is why my eye sags a lot sometimes. I had a little bit of head trauma to the front side here, and scrape all the way down. I had a scar there too. Whiplash and several other things. But my right leg and my left ankle and foot were completely crushed. There was no fixing it. I was in a wheelchair for about 3 months. Then on the walker and the crutches and all that, I was not able to walk for almost a year. Well, that doctor that I had after the car wreck wrote me 120 oxycodone 15s and wrote me a side of hydrocodone 10 milligram, 90 of those a month. So I was getting 120 of the P's and like 90 of the L's a month by myself. Well, I started having so much anxiety from the wreck and nightmares, and that was real. I wasn't lying about that when I told them about that they started writing me, I can't remember what they call Xanax, but they wrote me Xanax. I didn't like that. It didn't help me sleep. All I did was get up and I would be in the refrigerator eating and falling asleep, about choking. Even taking just a half of one, it made me feel awful. But I knew people who loved it. And guess what? I ended up loving the pain medicine, the P's and the L's. So I would take the Z's and be like, hey, you want to trade back and forth and get what I want, give them what they wanted. Well, one day, a friend of ours was busted. And I said, nope, I'm done with that. Not doing that. I'm not going to jail for that. No, sir, buddy, I'm done. So I left. I was like, nope, I'm not selling, buying nothing. Even though I quit selling and trading my Z's, I kept getting my P's and L's from the doctor's office. And just because a doctor writes it to you does not mean It's okay. It doesn't mean you're not an addict or addicted. Because my doctor was writing it to me, and I was an addict, and I was addicted, and I would have done anything to get it. At one point, I was taking 8 or 9 a day, and it's not nothing to brag about. It was embarrassing. I couldn't even get out of bed without having at least 2 or 3 in my mouth. That's awful. That's disgusting and awful. That I wasted so much time laying in that bed, pitying myself. Oh, pity me, I broke my legs. I broke my legs. I have to have pain medicine to get out of bed. We have veterans out here who, oh, that's the wind blowing. We had veterans who went through the war and have limbs that are amputated who didn't get any pain medicine, and they made it through and they survived it, and they are still surviving it. And me sitting here giving myself all this pity, thinking that I had to have it to live. But in my mind, that's the way it felt. Well, once it stopped making me feel good, then it got to where it just made me feel normal. So now I'm getting up and taking it just to feel normal. I didn't understand that. I couldn't understand, wait a minute, where'd the good feeling go? Why is it now when I'm taking 2 or 3, it doesn't make me feel good? It just makes me feel worse sometimes. And not even normal now. What's going on? And then the doctor says, you need something stronger. We're going to have to up the dose and up the meds. So then he ups it to oxycodone 15 milligrams, like 130 a month, and then ups my Lorcet to, what was that stuff called? It was like the Percocet 5, I think, 5 or 10. So I was getting the Roxys and the Percs. This went on for a couple of years. So after 2 years of doing that every single day, every month, all year round, it was in my body and in my brain. It was embedded so deep, I could not move without it. I couldn't do anything without it. I couldn't go to work without it. Once my legs did heal up, I thought to myself one day, well, hey, I'm able to walk. I'm able to drive. I don't need this stuff no more. I'm going to go ahead and quit it, and I'm going to flush it down the toilet. I flushed over, I think, 80 pills down the toilet. Because I thought to myself, I'll get some vitamins, some fruits, all that home remedy stuff, and I'll just go through the withdrawals. It'll take about a day or 2. I'll be fine, no problem. Biggest mistake I ever made. I tried to come off this stuff by myself, without a physician, without a doctor. Worst mistake I ever made. I laid in that bed that night. I went without 6 hours, had went by without medicine. The withdrawals were just getting started a little bit. I was tossing and turning, getting the shakes, like aches and pains. And my muscles felt like they were just being stretched and pulled, and they start jerking. And it's like restless leg syndrome, but way more severe and all over your body. Your arms, your neck, and your left side is worse for whatever reason. I don't know. But your left side will, you'll jerk over and over and over. And it's like a pain and agitation. You can't take it. Oh, you just can't take it. I hate even thinking about it. So the next morning, I go back to my doctor and I tell him I flushed all that down the toilet. And he was like, I'm not writing you nothing else till next month. I can't. And I say, look, please, anything. I was trying to get off of it, please, will you do anything? And he said, no, I'm not giving you anything. That was enough for all month. You shouldn't have flushed it. Your next appointment is in 2 weeks. So then what happens? Then I have to go find it. And what does that start? Buying it off the street. That's what starts. So then I'm starting to look around, asking people, my friends that come over. Now I'm that person. Now I have become that person who is grabbing the phone and, hey, you know where anything's at? Hey, I got $50. Do you know where anything's at? No, not that stuff. I'm talking about like perks and L's and M's and K's and Q's. That was me. Oh, well, you got them for 5. She's got them for 10. She's got them for 3. And you got them for 7. Well, I got them for 6. That was me. How embarrassing that is. Since I've been clean, I think about that so much. How embarrassing that is. That I was that person. But now that I'm older and I'm more mature, I understand it's a process. And every addict Whether you're a gambling addict, a shopping addict, a sex addict, a food addict, a drug addict, it doesn't matter what kind of addict you are, you go through the processes. You go through the motions, you go through different steps of the addiction. And there are some low rock bottom steps of addictions. Even for a shopping addict. I've seen people steal cars just to be able to go into Macy's and get something. I've seen people actually steal from their grandparents just to get $20 to go buy lottery tickets. And let me tell you, don't sit here and judge thinking that this is trailer park trash kind of people who does that. I'm talking people living in the suburbs, talking about people who are lawyers, people who are working up there in the hospital, people who are working in the courthouse. That's what I'm talking about. These people that I knew, they worked everywhere. Health department, social services, traded stuff back and forth. The nurses was even getting busted at the hospital for stealing morphine. It's everywhere. It's not just in the damn trailer parks. It's not just in my hometown. It's everywhere. Some of your biggest higher up people, higher authority people are dealing with addictions. Look at all these sex addicts. It's bad. Hold that thought. So we're in the car now. We have to take a little car ride because I decided to have a panic attack thinking about stuff. Anyways, gonna go get some food while we're talking. So, back to the addiction process. I became very dependent upon the oxycodone and the hydrocodone, and it really took over my life. It became a process of searching for it, finding it, taking it, searching for more. It ruled everything that I did. It ruled where I ate, where I slept, who I was friends with. It ruled who my family was. It ruled what I wanted to do in life. It ruled where I worked. It ruled everything. And it ruined everything. Ruled and ruined are two totally different things, and it did both. It became the monster that I feared for so long because I had seen other people that I loved be attacked by addictions, different kinds of addictions. And I always feared that I would become that person, and there I was becoming that person. And then I got with someone else who had an addiction to the same thing, or what I thought at first, well, he was addicted to the same thing I was, but come to find out, he was addicted to a lot more and a lot worse. He actually was hooked on heroin, the coke. At this time, I wasn't doing nothing like that. I was doing just the pain meds. He was hooked on that, and he was hooked on methadone. He was hooked on using needles. I didn't know that for about a year and a half of our dating. I had no idea. That's how I don't want to say how dumb I was, but that's how blind I was to the addiction that he had. I couldn't see anything like that. I couldn't even believe when I found out. I was like, there's no way. Because somebody had told me one day, somebody was like, you know the guy you're talking to, or the guy you're dating, you know he does stuff like that, right? Let me see if I can put this right here. I don't know that I can. No, I can't. It's too big. So it's just going to have to be right there for now. But, they were like, you know, he actually uses needles. And he does crack and stuff. And I had never even seen crack. I'd never even seen anybody use needles. I seen diabetics use needles, but that was it. I had no idea what that stuff was. Well, I didn't believe it, and I called him a liar, and I was like, I would never think that about him. You can't sit here and make me believe that. And they were like, well, you're addicted to, and I know this and that. And they assumed, because we were together, that I was doing those things. And I'm like, I'm not doing that stuff. And of course I lied and said I wasn't doing anything when I was doing the meds. But everybody just assumed that I was doing heroin and crack and all that stuff too. And I wasn't. But when you hang around people who are doing that kind of thing, that's what happens. everybody thinks that you're doing what the company you keep, they think that's what you're doing. So the old saying of you are the company you keep, that's just how it looks to everybody. Well, eventually, months later, about a year and a half in our relationship, he had been on probation prior to us meeting. So he was on probation, intense probation, when I met him and while we dated. So I assumed, he wasn't using much of anything because he was getting drug tested. Well, one day the probation officer busts in my house and says, because he's living here, I can search your house. And I said, no, you can't. This is my house. And he informed me real quick that yes, I can because he's living here. And let me tell you, that's the truth. If someone is on probation and they live with you, the law and the probation office can come into your house and search every nook and cranny. Anything they want, they can do. And they did. Well, they go to where he had kept his clothes and stuff at, which was a whole separate closet than mine because I had a 3-bedroom trailer. They go into that closet and they dig, and I'm like, you're not going to find nothing. He don't do anything like that. And he said, well, we just drug tested him at the office and he failed. He failed for this, and this. Well, guess what? They found an actual pipe in one of his coats. Now, it wasn't wintertime. It was actually like summertime. So I'm like, well, maybe he had that pipe from the wintertime and he quit. I was making all kinds of stupid excuses because I too was stupid. And I just could not believe that he would lie to me like that because I thought we were just so close. And I thought that, I got one hair right there, it's driving me crazy. I thought, there's no way he's been hiding this from me for this long and me not knowing. I just don't believe that. And then when he comes in and they ask him where the pipe is from, he tells them the truth and that he had been using the pipe to smoke stuff. Of course, I'm stupid and I'm thinking, oh, smoke weed. He's been smoking weed with it. No, he was doing more than that. So me and him get into a big argument because now I can be charged. This is in my home. This is in my home, which makes it my possession. Now I can go to jail for this mess. So we fight, we argue. He tells the probation officer and the drug detectives that it's not mine, it's his, because it is his. That didn't matter. That did not matter at all. And they tell me, you got 2 options. I'm going to call the other drug detective out here, and you can do a little work for him, or you can go to jail for possession. I'm sitting here bumfuzzled because I'm thinking to myself, I've not done anything. I have nothing to do with this. Y'all came to search for him. How did I get drug into this? And I damn sure ain't narking for nobody. Not gonna happen. Praise God, amen. There's a church there. Me and him are still arguing, and he's like, just do what they say, just do what they say. And I said, I'm not gonna be pressured into line. I don't know where you get your drugs. I don't know where you get your stuff. I've never been with you to get anything. He does whatever he's got to do, and he doesn't get charged. I get charged with possession, maintaining and dwelling. They tried to put a trafficking on me, which was ridiculous because it was a pipe in my house. It was not, I wasn't moving or being mobile with it, is what I'm trying to say. But they threw that on there, and then they said because I had a vehicle parked in the yard, that they could charge me for having it in a vehicle. I'm like, dude, y'all are ruining my life. You're ruining my whole life. I've not done anything wrong. How can you do this? The law can do whatever they want. And sometimes the law does crooked things to get people they want in jail. Well, these in particular cops thought that if they got to me, they'd get to him, and he would snitch where he was getting his drugs. He would have snitched to save his own butt. I didn't have to be drug into it. He was a rat anyways. So I tell them, look, whatever you got to do with him, you do with him. I'm not going. You're not charging me with this. And technically, there was nothing they could do. So I didn't go to jail that day. The drug detective, he didn't show up. Well, about a month later, I look outside my door, and there's a car parked outside in the driveway. And it's an SUV with tinted windows. And I said, okay, who is this? Now, mind you, me and that guy had broken up. The day that all that happened, I kicked him out and I was done with him, and I was in the process of moving. Hold on, I gotta order my food. Okay, so let me just make it clear. You can get in a lot of trouble just by hanging out with people who are getting in trouble or doing bad things. The old sayings are true. If they're doing stuff and they get caught and you're with them, you're gonna go down too. So he's sitting in my house, outside of my house, excuse me, and I walk outside and I'm like, can I help you? And this dude gets out of the SUV and he's like, I'm such and such. Do you remember back whenever we came and so was here and was on probation and all that? And I'm like, yeah, he moved. He no longer stays here. So, y'all don't need to come here looking for him. And this dude tells me to my face, well, you're going to have to help us or we're going to have you arrested for possession. I said, how can you have me arrested when you have no evidence? You have nothing on me. You cannot take nothing to court. You have no evidence. He says, we can always make evidence. I'll find evidence to get what I need to get. And I said, I have done nothing to y'all. Y'all wouldn't have even known me if he hadn't stayed here. If he had never moved in here, you wouldn't know me. And he was like, that's just how he had some kind of little saying. I can't remember. But it was basically like how SpongeBob says, well, that's how the coral crumbles. It was some crap like that. And I just stood there thinking to myself, you're supposed to be protecting us. You're supposed to be fighting for innocent people like us. And yes, I do admit, I was getting the pain meds. I was messing with that, and I had a prescription, and that doesn't make them right. But I never had no coke. I never had no H. I never had no pipes. I never had any of that stuff. That was in his coat pocket. And he actually, and this is what makes me so mad, he never was charged with it. They let him go with everything because he snitched. So, after he leaves my house, the cop leaves my house, the detective, about 2 weeks later, there's a note on the side of my door that says, here's my number, and it's got the drug detective's number on there, and it says, don't forget, you need to call this number. I'm like, why would I need to call this number? I've told y'all I don't, even if I wanted to help you, I don't know where he went. I never seen where he went. I never went with him because I never did that kind of stuff. The stuff that I got was easy for me to get. I got it from my doctor. I got it from people right there around where I stayed. I didn't have to go into these little areas to get what he was getting. So I had no idea who he was dealing with. Then this detective comes back to my house one day in the evening, and I'm sitting there going through withdrawals because I haven't had no pain meds, trying to get clean. I'm panicking. I've got money in my pocket, and I'm trying my best to stay sober and not go get nothing because I put it in my head, I'm done with this. I'm done with all of it. Cannot slip up. Stay strong. And I had a good friend of mine who'd never messed with anything. He was there, and he was my backbone through this. The detective rolls up, says, I need to talk to you, and he didn't know my friend was in the house. And I said, are you back again? I told you I don't know anything. And he was like, if you don't help me, I'm coming with papers and I'm coming to arrest you. And I'm going to charge you with possession. Hold that thought. She had brought the food and I didn't want to show her on camera because I don't know that anybody wants to be on camera. And I'm not one of those people who's going to force somebody to be on camera. Well, anyways, I tell him I don't know anything. My friend comes out of the house and he says, look, she does not do that stuff. She might have dabbled into pain medicine a little bit here and there, or whatever, and he was sugarcoating my addiction with the pain meds. He said, but she's never messed with hardcore stuff like that. So you need to just do what you got to do somewhere else. You ain't going to get it out of her. He said, even if she did know, she would never tell you. So just go on. We're about to call a lawyer. I said, please, you shouldn't have done that. You're probably about to make my life a whole lot worse. And y'all, that's exactly what happened. When my friends stood up to this detective, they made my life a living hell. I had notes on the door, notes on my van. Every time they were going to my parents' house, looking for me, talking about they had to talk to me. This went on for over almost 8 months, right at a year, before one day, the final day happened. My friend had to go to court. Don't pull out in front of me now. What are you doing? Are y'all dumb? That's dangerous. Oh my gosh. Oh, all right. A friend of mine had to go to court, and she wanted somebody to be there with her to go to court. So I said, okay, I'll go with you, no problem. She was going through a custody hearing. I said, no problem, I'll go to court with you, I'll support you. Got it. I'm sitting in the courtroom, waiting on her to have her turn, go to the front or whatever, and we go outside she was going to smoke a cigarette. As we're standing outside, this probation officer that my ex had before, probation officer walks up and says, they're going to file charges on you for possession. I said, how? You didn't get anything off of me. You found one pipe in his clothes that he admitted to. He told you that was his pipe and that I didn't even know about it. He said, and this was his words, I promise you, and I'll say it to this man's face to this day. He looked right at me in my eyes and he said, well, you should have done what the detective asked you to do. I said, what, lie? Because I don't know who you guys are talking about. I've never dealt with them kind of people. I don't know who they are. And I'm not saying that to be offensive, but I really, truly don't know those dealers like that. He said, well, you should have went up there anyways and tried to get them. I said, and put my life in danger? Let me tell you something. You want to talk about being in danger? Go to a drug dealer's house that don't know you. Send a little white girl up to a drug dealer's house, and he's never seen me a day before in his life. He's going to know something's up, and he's going to blow my head off, and then he's going to, anybody who's with me or connected to me, he's going to hurt. And I told this probation officer, I told y'all, I am not doing anything like that. I don't know those people. I'm not going to rat people out. I don't know like that. I'm not doing that mess. I don't do that. And I don't know these people. And he said, well, you should have at least went. I said, why would I go? The man would have shot me on sight because they don't know me. I've never bought from them. They're going to know that I've never bought from them before. And for some reason, the drug detective and the probation officer assumes that you can just walk up to a drug dealer's house and start buying drugs. It's just that easy. I'm like, not here, it ain't. In this town, you got to know these people. You ain't getting nothing but a bullet in your butt if you go up to somebody's house trying to get something. They will not sell to you around here like that. It ain't like that here. And I told him, I'm not trying to get shot. I'm not trying to get shot over that boy's problems. That's you and the detective and that man's problems, not mine. Well, he walks off laughing. Well, you should have done it. You should have talked to him. You should have helped. I said, whatever. Next thing I know, here comes a sheriff deputy turning me around. Put your hands behind your back. You're being charged with possession. I said, where's the drugs? What possession are you talking about? He said, you know when it's from. I said, I've never had drugs. When have you ever caught me with drugs? You've never caught me with drugs. Who are you? He said, oh, well, the drug detective, he said that he got you with drugs. I said, what drug detective? And he told me the guy's name, the one that been coming to my house stalking me over my ex. I said, oh, really? Well, ask that drug detective, where are the drugs then? Why am I being charged possession when y'all have no evidence? Y'all, they, excuse my language, they charged me with possession of cocaine, maintaining, dwelling, trafficking, selling, they treated me like Pablo Escobar, basically. We go to court, I go to jail. I'm sitting in a holding cell for like 12 hours, no food, no water, no nothing. You know, I'm panicking because I don't know what's going on, how they were able to charge me with no evidence based on hearsay by a drug detective who's got complaints on him from other people. And I finally get into the jail cell. When I get into the jail cell, you know, people come up and start talking. They want to know what I'm in there for. Who am I? And there was a girl that I went to school with who was in there. And you'll never believe this. Sorry. She was in there because the very same drug detective did the same thing to her. He wanted her husband, who she was actually still with. And because her husband, like, left town, he was on probation. They were wanting him to snitch. And just like me, you know, she didn't know where to go. She didn't do any kind of drug. This girl was straight up clean. Didn't mess with nothing. No meds, no nothing. They told her they wanted her husband and they wanted his dealers. She told them she didn't know. She had 5 kids at home. She never done anything. They gave her a drug test. She passed it, just like I did at the jail. And the drug detective told her when they brought her in, he was detaining her because of her husband. How can you arrest somebody based on what their husband did? You should be arresting their husband. But they thought if they got her, that the husband would just come turn himself in. Well, he didn't. And that girl sat in jail, I think, probably 2 years. No court date, no nothing. No prison, nothing. Just sat in jail. That's messed up. It burns me up that they get away with stuff like that. This drug detective is still around doing this stuff too. And he himself buys drugs. Many people have seen him in the areas getting dope, but nobody does anything about it here. It's like one of those Lifetime movies where the sheriff's department is high and mighty, and if you don't have money, you're screwed. That's what it's like here. But anyways, I'm sitting in jail for 2 or 3 days, and I finally get bailed out. I get home, I go to my family's house, and I'm telling them everything that's going on. And my family believes me because they know I'm honest with them, and I tell them what I'm doing. And I told them I'd never mess with that stuff. I didn't know who the dealers were, and my family believed me because they knew I was telling the truth. Hold on. 1 sec. So I'm finally back out of the car or vehicle. I don't even remember where I left off because I got so many people calling me about this and about that, and I mean nothing like extravagant or important, just jobs and stuff and making reefs and a lot of orders coming through. But anyways, I'm trying to remember where I ended off because I can't remember. I've got like 10 orders of reefs to make and bows like by next week. And as you can see, I've not started any of it yet, which it doesn't take me an hour to make each one. But anyways, oh my gosh, I didn't want this video to be drug out for no hour, but here we are. And if you have any kind of video or experience you want to share with me, please do. If you want to sub, I'll sub you. It's up to you. If you want to talk, just add them on Twitter, Southern Gal Lily. Back to the story. So I got charged, went to jail, got out, got bailed out. My bail was like $6,000, so my family had to bring like $600 of it. I got bailed out. This detective kept coming around the house until my family just finally told him, look, leave her alone. She has nothing to do with that. You have cornered her. You have placed her in this situation, and we're going to prove in court that she had nothing to do with it, and you don't even have no evidence. Well, y'all, he told my family, I'll make evidence. Well, we'll go to court. They tell me, now I had one of the, I don't want to call him a bad lawyer because he's not a bad lawyer, but he didn't defend me the way I think he should have, especially when there was no evidence. I passed a drug test in jail. I passed every drug test after I got out of jail. I wasn't doing that stuff. Of course, they didn't believe me, but I passed every test. So I got this lawyer, and he tells me plead guilty. I'm like, why would I plead guilty? I'm not guilty. Well, do you want this on your record? I'm like, no, but it's going to be on my record anyways. He's like, well, plead guilty to this, and they'll make a plea with you. And that's it. It'll be over with. You'll get probation. You'll pay this much money, and this will be on your record. I'm like, whoa. I thought you said if I pled guilty, it wouldn't be on my record. And here comes the funny part. Oh, well, if you pay this amount of money by this date, it won't be on your record. What? What do you mean? If I pay this $1,500 in the next 3 months, this won't be on my record? And that's exactly what he told me. It's on record. That's what it was said. It's all about money. Whether you're guilty or innocent, it's about money with these states. So, of course, me being young and dumb and not knowing anything about court system, because I'd never been through it. I never had any kind of, nothing like that happen before. I never had to defend myself in any kind of situation like that, especially not against detectives. So I pled guilty. I wish I had fought it, but I didn't know how, and I didn't have the money. At that time, I mean, I was a waitress at Pizza Hut. I had no idea. Again, I didn't know. I was young. So I plead guilty, go back to court. The judge says something that sticks out to me. He asked the detective, He asked the detective who is in the case, the one that has charged me, to ask about the whole situation. What gets me, the judge says, bring your evidence. And there is none. The detective says, I destroyed it. What do you mean you destroyed it? Why would you destroy evidence? Because there was no evidence. So the judge says, okay, this, and this. What do you plead? I'm like, looking at my lawyer. You said he had... What? You said he would make evidence. He said he would make evidence. There is no evidence. I shouldn't have to plead guilty. And then that's when they all have like a little gathering. And then my lawyer comes back and tells me, if you don't plead guilty, they're going to make evidence. So plead guilty, pay the money, be done with it. I'm just sitting there like, this is going to be on my record. I have nothing on my record. I don't want nothing on my record. I have been a good citizen. I mean, I've done things to myself that I shouldn't have done, but I've never hurt nobody else. I've never, why should I have to have this on my record? This is not right. It's not fair. He's forcing me into this when this is about that guy that I used to date. Nothing about me. Well, we come back, and he's like, just go ahead and plead guilty. So I pled guilty to the possession, I think it was like maintaining or something. And I'm just thinking to myself, just let this be over with. I'll get the money. Just be done. So then they tell me you got to go see your probation officer on this day. I'm like, that's fine. I'll go see it. I get there a few days later. Now, mind you, at this time, I'm on crutches from the car wreck. I'm actually, I don't know if I mentioned that before, but I got into a bad car wreck, which started, some of the stuff. Anyways, I'm on crutches, just coming out of a wheelchair. Got cast on both my ankles, my legs, cast her up to my knees from my toes. So I come wobbling in the probation office, and she just looks at me like, I thought, you were, what's wrong? Something happened between court and now? And I'm like, no, I got into a wreck, and, I've been in rough shape. And she's like, well, you passed your drug test. How'd you pass your drug test? Aren't you getting pain meds? And I'm like, I stopped. Because ever since I've been in jail, I'm not doing anything to get in no trouble. I'm done. And I was done. And she was like, well, I need to go ahead and pee in a cup, and I'm going to watch you. I'm like, sure, fine, that's okay. I drank like Coke and a bunch of water because I was so nervous. So I sat down. I had to pee bad. I peed in front of her. And she actually has the nerve to look at me and say, why is this temperature so hot? I'm like, it just came out of my body. What are you talking? You stood at the door. You handed me the cup. You seen me put the cup between my legs on the toilet. You had my other hand held up in the air because that's what they do over here. You have to hold one hand up in the air and the other leg between your legs to make sure you're not holding anything down there. And we're doing that. And then she's like, well, the temperature strip should say this and should say that, and that's too hot. I'm like, I thought if it was too cold, it was wrong. You just watched me. So then I had to pee again, and guess what? The next one was the same way. And she stood right here, and she was like, well, your temperature must just be very high. I said, probably so. I mean, I don't know. It's pee. How would I know what temperature it's supposed to be? And I do get that some people try to fill condoms up with somebody else's urine or bottles, and they try to hold it between their legs and pass a drug test with somebody else's urine. But she was standing right there watching me, so she knew. And I passed it both times. Well, we go in her office and we start talking, and she's like, I know who your ex is, and I want to know the whole situation and what happened. As much as I did not want to like her at first, she ended up being so great. She was a tough woman. She reminded me a lot of Clarice from Hannibal 2. Julianne Moore, the character. The way Julianne Moore carried herself, she was tough. She didn't take nothing off nobody. That's how this probation officer was. She asked about my home life, my childhood, where I stayed at the present time, what happened with the ex, and she said, I know your ex. He was actually on probation with me before I've been his officer. And I said, oh, really? She said, yeah, I had to violate him because he wouldn't stay clean. He was getting in trouble, stealing stuff, driving no license, blah, 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 just getting in trouble. And I was like, well, you won't have that problem with me. That's not me. And that's why I broke up with him, because I didn't know he would do things like that. That's not me. She said, well, I hope you're telling the truth, and only time will tell. So I go through the next, I think, before I got the full amount paid, they gave me like 3 years. I had it all paid within a couple months. So I bring in the last, I think it was like $800 or $1,000. Mind you, I'm working like with the legs messed up and everything. I bring the money in, pay the office. I tell her, here you go, what's next? She says, oh, you're done. You don't have to come back. I say, what? I thought I was on probation for the next couple of years. She's like, oh no, you paid your money, you're done. I said, so it's like about money. It's really only about money with the state, with the probation, with all this. That's okay. I mean, most people would have been happy about that. I was happy about that, but still, that just really showed me that it was only about the money for them. And she says, well, I can pop up anytime. I probably won't, but I could. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. And I didn't never hear from her again. So, a month after I'm off the probation, done, paid for, everything's done, I don't have no more appointments. I get a phone call, and I recognize the number as a state number, so I don't answer it, because I'm done with these people. The next day, there's a car sitting in my driveway when I get off work. It's the detective, the one that set me up. I'm sitting there like, oh, buddy, you think you're about to get this going again? You're fixing to find out. So during this time, this was like all of the beginning of the charge stuff happened in 2000. I think it was 2009. No, I was convicted in 2009. It happened in 2008, but they convicted me in 2009 with no evidence, and it's on record. So 2009, I had like a Crazer or some kind of old flip phone, but you could video with it. And I pulled that phone out, and I do believe it was a Razor or a Crazer. I don't want to get stuck on that, but I'm trying to remember. And it was pink, I think. But I flipped it open, and I hit record, and I'm like, what are you doing here? Oh, well, I need to talk to you. We got unfinished business. And I take my phone. No, we don't. We have no unfinished business. And he's like, you can't record me. I said, by this state's laws, yes, I can, because you're on my property. This is my family's property. What are you doing here? We have unfinished business. I want to talk to you off the record. I said, you're not talking to me about nothing. You are not pulling me back in this. This all started with him. And I know you have several of the women and men locked up in that jail based on what their spouse did. He's not my spouse. I will not go through that again. Get off my property. That's when my family member came out. My family member said, this is my property. You got about 1 minute to get off my property. And he did. After that, I see him about 4 times altogether. I would see him following me, different places. Walmart. It ain't like I was in a drug hole or in a bad area, nothing like that. He would be at the grocery store, trying to intimidate me, trying to get me to talk, trying to like walk past me and like intimidate me. And I'm thinking, pull my phone out, I'm going to record. And I kept a phone charged with me. I always do. Ever since then, I do. So, about a year after that happened, my legs were healed up. I'm still not messing with no meds at all. Because, look, it's just been nothing but bad stuff since that started. So, I met this other dude. Me and him get talking. He plays guitar. I like guitars. We like music. We hang out. We watch TV, blah, blah, blah. We go to concerts. Well, one night on the way home from a concert, we go through a road check. Who do you think is at that road check with their canine unit? Mr. Detective is at that road check. I'm like, oh my gosh, please, not this again. I said, you tell me right now, do you have anything in this car at all? And he said, no, I don't do anything. I don't even drink. What do you mean? I said, are you sure? Because I'm not getting in no trouble with these people. I'll get out and walk right now. No, I don't have nothing. I said, okay. We go through. The detective makes eye contact with me because he's not talking to people at the cars, but he's standing behind the police officer who is. He actually looks over and he's like, make that car pull over there. I want to search that vehicle. The cop who was talking to people face to face, as you pull up, there's a cop standing here that tells you license, registration. You show it to him, you go through. That cop said, you can't do that. He said, license, registration. The guy that I was with showed it to him. He looked at it, he read it, he said, y'all have a nice day. That detective stood behind him. No, you make that car pull over. He said, we don't do that. This is a road check. They have license, they have registration. Their car tags is legal, everything's good. They let them go. You can't do that. This detective radios to the officer that's on up ahead at the end of the road check, doing the opposite lane on the other side. This probably like maybe 15 feet away. He radios, car coming through, pull that car over and check it. And names off all this stuff that I can't understand. And I'm like, as we're pulling through, I'm hearing this. So when we get up to the next one, this dude is like, y'all have a nice day. And I'm thinking to myself, after he tried again to do this to me. So it makes me wonder, how many people has he done this to? And I know what you're thinking. Yes, there are a lot of people who have had substances, drugs, alcohol, and they've been caught driving, drinking. They've caught it in their house. They've caught them in the vehicle with it. Yes, they were guilty. But there is a large number of people who are set up by police. This is not a conspiracy theory. I lived through it. I went through it. They intimidated me. They stalked me. I wasn't even on probation. The ex was the one that was on probation. I was not. I had never had nothing on my record. And now I do. All because, well, my fault for, dating him, letting him stay with me, and they could come in and check the house, but I didn't know he had anything. Had I known, no, he wouldn't have been there, obviously. But I learned a valuable lesson. You are the company you keep, and you need to stay away from that stuff, and so I have. Okay, so later on, and this is just what happened. It was about 2014, okay? We go to a place that's near a river, and at this river, it's like they have bands and concerts and stuff like that there. People are lighting up doobies, people are doing whatever they're doing, and we're not doing anything. We're there to see the show, because at every show, that's what happens. Now, I can tolerate some pot smoke going around, but if I start seeing anything else, I'm out. I'm done, all because of that one situation with that detective. So everybody's partying, having a good time. I'm like the designated driver. As we're pulling out, one of the girls with us starts telling us a story about how her ex was in jail in our county, and his new girlfriend was in jail in our county, and foster care had taken their kids. And I'm just listening. I don't know her that well, but I'm just listening. And she's like, detective, like, he locked her up because he couldn't find her spouse. So he locks her up, calls CPS, and they take their kids. I said, how did they lock her up without evidence on her? And I just wanted to hear the story before I said anything about my situation. And she's like, oh, well, the boyfriend had left town. He was supposed to be snitching for the police in this town. Well, once they got hot on him, and he's trying to get high and do whatever he's doing, he left. He left town altogether. So when the police came around his house looking for him, they couldn't find him. Only she was there with the kids. They go to his mama's house, they couldn't find him. They go to her house, they couldn't find him. Go to his sister's, couldn't find him. They go back to her house, and they tell her, you're under arrest, possession, this, that. Where's the evidence? We destroyed it. How in a court, in any state, how can any cop or detective get away with, we destroyed it? But it happened to me. We destroyed it. You didn't have anything to destroy. And I don't think you would destroy it if you had it. That makes no sense at all. But that's just what happened to me. There are way worse stories that have went on, especially in the Carolinas. There are stories of people being in prison for over 10 years or more that were innocent. Oh, I seen a story a while back. A man was in for 20 years. He spent 20 years in prison, in maximum security prison, and he just got out. He was innocent. DNA proved him innocent. This is unacceptable. It's disrespectful. And what's worse is they force these people, these innocent people, like me and like him, they force us to sign a paper saying that we can't sue the state if we want to get out. That alone is not fair. If you hold this man in prison for 20 years, his first option should be to sue the state that did this to him. Somebody made a false claim. Somebody was falsely arrested. Somebody lost 20 years of their life being RAPED'd in prison, ABUSED'd. All these horrible things happening to him in prison. But he can't sue the state? But they can lock him up for 20 years on a guess or a hunch? That's not right. I don't know, but okay, so let me just end this off on how things were going after that. So, after they were telling me her story, I thought to myself, you know what? There has to be a way to help these people. There's got to be a way to help people, whether it's emotionally or support or financially. There has to be a way to start helping people who are stuck in jail or stuck in prison that are not supposed to be there, or at least help their families or something. So I contacted the girl through a letter, and it took us about a month because the jail in that area, they do not want the prisoners or the jailmates getting any kind of mail. They will literally get the mail, open it up, throw it away, or just drag around. That's a federal offense, by the way. You're not supposed to mess with the mail. But they do in prison. They mess with all the mail. And you might get your letter or you might not because you don't have rights anymore. That just irks me so much. But me and her talk, and she gets to call me and stuff, and we start to have a conversation about what her situation is. And I finally tell her, look, we can get you out of there. Did you do this? Did you do that? And she says, no, I did not. And I said, I'm going to get you a lawyer. I'm going to help you. We're going to get through this. And you know what? I was able to get people together, and her family and some of our family, and get the money up and get her a lawyer. And she fought it. She fought it. She didn't get no charges. She didn't have to plead guilty. Nothing. She fought it and was able to get out of the whole situation. That girl is doing so good and has been doing good for the last 10 years. She's been able to raise her babies. She has started her own business. I mean, not everybody that goes to jail is doing bad things or trying to be bad or trying to live that kind of lifestyle. Some people get caught up in the wrong stuff. Some people are innocent. Some people are guilty and then, turn their life around. There's a lot of different scenarios. But we can't sit here and judge. And it just, the way the police treat people, it makes me sick the way they treated me. And I'm not saying that because I'm some white girl from this area, that area. I'm saying I was set up. And nobody cared. The lawyer didn't even care. Nobody cared. But me and my family. And you think anybody else gave a crap? No, they did not. You know who did act like they cared about me? The girls that were in jail with me. They were so nice. I had no canteen. I had nothing. They gave me food. They gave me hair bows. They gave me tampons. Whatever I needed, they gave to me. For free. The jail workers wouldn't even let me even try to get anything off canteen. I couldn't even call nobody. They wouldn't allow me to call nobody until like 3 days later. Then I could make a phone call. 3 days later. And this was like in '09, so it wasn't 20 years ago or nothing like this. Even in '09, you should have been able to make a phone call. I don't want to, let's drag that right on out, but anyways, 2009 was a year that I got my act together completely. I started over, I got straight, and I left everything alone. It's 2020, so I have been completely clean of substances and drugs and everything like that. I've not even so much as looked at a pain pill. I mean, I've been to the dentist because of my ED, the disorder. My teeth get really soft or hurt. I get cavities. I've had to have a little bit of work done. And even if the dentist even mentions a pain pill, I'm like, nope, I got Tylenol, give me some ibuprofen, infection medicine, I'm good. I don't want nothing. I don't even want to look at it. If I go to the hospital for any kind of procedure, I'll go ahead and tell them as soon as I get there to schedule anything, I let them know, do not. I don't want anything. The withdrawals of coming off of pain meds, that was one of the hardest things I've ever been through. This was like 3 weeks, almost a month of withdrawals. When you deal with something for that long, you remember it. I remember the body spasms. I remember the restless leg syndrome, the restless body syndrome. I remember everything. You don't want to go through that. So if you've never took that stuff, don't. Don't. Because it only takes about a day or so before your body starts needing it. And what happens is your brain it gets not just addicted, but it feels like it has to have it. So your brain forces your body to crave it. And your body will jerk, snatch, hit. I mean, like you will sweat, you'll get diarrhea. I'll have to tell that story sometime. That was brutal. I'm sorry this video is already over an hour long. I really wasn't trying to drag it out like that. But all I can say is if you have an addiction, deal with it safely. Don't go trying to do everything cold turkey. Get help. Get help. Thanks, guys, for listening. And if you want to, share your stories and comments in the comments. I meant to say your experiences. Share any of it and all of it in the comments. I mean, I have so much I'd love to talk about with people. And if you want me to sub your channel, just comment below and I'll sub to it. Thanks a lot, guys.